How's it going, guys? Today I wanted to kind of bring up the little argument of whether or not we should go completely green as a nation right now and do away with fossil fuels, let alone if it's even plausible right now. Yes, as you can see, I am off-grid. So if you can see up there, I got 6 panels. In order for us to go off-grid, we had to remove our water heater, because your water heater uses your average water heater uses about 5 kilowatts of power. That system we have is 5 kilowatts of power. So we had to remove it. And people thinking, oh, we can go solar and wind and all this other shit, like a power plant situation, and do away with fossil fuels. No, that can't happen right now. Your average alternative energies, whether it's wind, solar, water, they're only about, at most, 20%, 25% efficient. You're not even utilizing all the power that can be produced. And you want to cut fossil fuel right now. I can tell you right as we speak right now, in order for me to be able to cut away from fossil fuels being off grid, I've got to put in at least another 12 more panels. I've got a windmill that I got to put up, which that tree right there with the slightly dead top to it is going to be topped and turned into a windmill tower. We have it, but even then, that's going to bring our system up to about right in that 6 to 7 kilowatt range. The average apartment, and we're talking 1 to 2 bedroom apartments, even a lot of your 3 bedrooms, those run off of 15 kilowatts an hour per month, or 15 kilowatts per month type thing. I'm not a scientist. I've just been living this way just long enough to have a basic understanding of how these systems work, but I also know enough that if we can't even produce enough power to power our water heater and then power everything else and still have enough power to charge our battery systems, which we have a 12 battery power bank, and it's a 48 volt system. For solar, ends up going, and we have trouble, say shitty days or overcast days like this where you're not producing much power. Our battery systems will keep us powered for at least 4 or 5 days. But it also means that, see this, you can't even run a heater. We do use wood stove. You see my chimney right there. But in order for you to be able to cut away from fossil fuels and produce enough energy at a scalable size that you don't need those fossil fuels anymore, as of right now, you would need every single homeowner to convert their home to off-grid and then connect it to the grid to where they're producing twice the power that they need to use with an excess amount of power that can go put back in the grid so it can be used for everyone else. Basically, the population has to be the power plant for that kind of situation. And these days, like our system, it cost us close to $20,000 to get. It was right between 15 and 18,000 actually. But in the process, we had to convert our water heater to a point of use propane, instant propane, and that requires fossil fuel. Most of you keep pushing this off-grid Green Deal shit are city dwellers who have never had to live this way before. You see it, you fantasize about it, you think it's a great idea, yet you're not actually really putting a lot of thought into how this is going to work out. You're not just going to cost people their jobs and all that. You're literally going to end up killing people, because a lot of people are not going to be able to produce the power they need to survive in this day and age. I mean, if we were cavemen, then at that point, people would already accept that people are going to die from natural causes, including disease like COVID. even though that's not necessarily natural, because that's a man-made thing. But I'm not here to talk about that. Conservatives, you need to understand, and I'm conservative myself. A lot of you got to understand that fossil fuels are a finite resource, which means it will run out after a while. It'll run out over time. And as those fuels start to dwindle over generations, you're going to start having countries fighting more and more over that finite resource. It is too early for us to be cutting fossil fuels, period. Liberals, you want to see the fossil fuel industry actually go by way of history, then you need to actually focus on advancing alternative energies to make them more sufficient, more efficient, and more affordable. It's like by way of a VCR, in essence. When those things first came out, people were spending like $1,000 a piece and more. But because so many people started buying them and more places started making them, they became cheaper. That's with anything really out there, any electronic out there, anything like that. It gets cheaper the more it's produced. We're not in a mass production situation. We have mass production going on, but not to the extent that it drives the price down. What you liberals are doing is you're pushing for things based on your emotions and you're not using any logic. I like smoking pot too, but I don't allow that to fry my brain so much that I can't stop and go, wait a minute. We can't really end fossil fuels because our alternative energies market has not reached anywhere near a maximum efficiency rate. It hasn't even reached a 30% efficiency rate, and you guys want to jump now. The reason why they haven't gotten rid of fossil fuels is because so far at the moment, there's nothing that's been produced that can replace it at the moment completely. Yeah, we can do nuclear power plants, we can do more coal plants, we can do all that shit, yeah, and you want to save the environment. To me, none of those are feasible options. I mean, if you want to do this right now, then you guys better be prepared to be paying taxes. Your grandkids are going to be paying taxes and everything out the ass to make sure that every household and building has alternative energy connected to it. And they need to be producing, might as well say, more than 2 times the amount of power they actually use in a month, because they have to be able to efficiently charge their systems and not just keep their house powered. And they have to be able to produce enough so that the stuff can go back into the grid. So that excess power that they produce, yeah, it goes back in. And once it's back in, that can be translated through. A lot of these people who are pushing this, thinking we need to have these fields full of windmills and solar panels, you're going to do just as much damage as a bunch of cows in that field, really. Because you're going to have to cover large spaces of area that's going to end up keeping those plants necessarily from being able to grow, because it's going to reflect the light back and it's going to make it hard for those things to grow. People, why don't we do it in the desert then? Well, just like every environment, they all have their life systems. And what they do, what you do when you're doing that, you're going to start destroying those ecosystems. Because you're trying to produce not just enough power for each and every household, building, business, apartment, that type of thing. You're having to produce enough power to go through the power lines themselves. So you're producing even more power than what's actually needed. See, the reason why some of these politicians in the past didn't want to do this so quickly, even though they're pushing really hard on this Green Deal, is because they want to tax you for free energy. And if they got everybody at home producing their own power and electricity, they can't tax you anymore for that power production. I have no electric bill. I don't have any utility bills. All I've got for most as a utility bill is buying a barbecue-size propane tank each month. Getting that filled. So I'm spending about $15 a month at most. But even then, most of you people out there who are pushing for this green shit, you need to do some homework. Because anybody who actually lives off-grid, completely off-grid, will tell you they cannot do so without the use of propane or fossil fuels. Because systems are not efficient enough right now. So you keep pushing and pushing and pushing for these green new energies, but none of you are putting any thought into it. It's like, how many of you were out there taking active part in these fucking riots this last year, burning down buildings, and not even once thought about how much pollutants you're putting into the fucking air from that building? Call yourselves environmentalists and stuff like this, but when you're burning down buildings, you've got all those plastics and all those chemicals and everything else that turns into pollution that goes right into the environment, and you're worried about the climate. The only reason why there's shit in the rain or shit in the wind and all this other stuff is because you're polluting your environments. And not one of you are really stopping to think about that, because most of you are more than happy to throw your shit on the ground and burn a building down, but then you want to complain about the weather. Climate is the prevailing weather of a certain location. It's not... It has really nothing to do with really anything else other than rain, snow, sunshine, cloud, overcast, that type of stuff. It's weather. You can't control the weather. Anybody who says they can, they're a fucking idiot, because there isn't a system out there that can do it. People go, oh, but there's HARP and there's all this other crap. I don't give a shit. We cannot manipulate the weather on a global scale. We can't. We can pollute our environment. And most of you dumbasses are polluting your environment in record scales. I mean, when you're going out and you're destroying shit and you're burning it all down, you're putting all that shit up in the air, and then you want to go complain to everybody else that they're not being green friendly. It makes no sense. There's no logic. In the end, both sides are wrong and right at the same time. We do need to start moving towards alternative energy. We can't force it right now because we don't even have the systems that are efficient enough to produce the power needed. Fossil fuels, it can't be gotten rid of because we still need to rely on that type of stuff until we can start replacing everything. You can't just shut it down. You're not just costing jobs. You're going to cost more than just jobs. I think the last 4 years has been the biggest fucking joke in this country because so many people have sat and thought about, or I shouldn't say thought about, they have emotioned and felt about, because half the country has based their bullshit on their emotions. They're not using their fucking head. And, you know, I may be cussing a bit here, but that's just me. So if you don't like hearing these words, that's too bad. You can stop watching or move on to the next video. But in the end, this constant lack of logic, because people are being driven by media-fueled emotions, turn your TVs off. Most of you have already made it clear that your TV knows more about your family, your friends, than you do, because a lot of you seem to think that people you grew up with, you loved and enjoyed spending time with. Granted, we all have an aunt, uncle, cousin, or parent that we don't like. But none of us would sit back and go, oh, they're a fucking Nazi or a supremacist. This is the type of people you are. And remember, you're the peace and loving kind. You want unity and healing. But you're going to still call even your own fucking family Nazis. I'm disgusted with both sides, really, these days. Republicans, Democrats. Republicans are nothing but, at this point, lapdogs for the DNC. And I'm talking the politicians. And the DNC are nothing but a bunch of bloodthirsty hypocrites. I have no more respect for either party. And being conservative or being liberal does not resort you to being just a Democrat or just a Republican or anything like that. Conservatism and liberalism is not a political party. It's a theory. It's a set of belief systems, basically, that kind of intermix with these political ideologies. But in the end, as I was saying, what this, video is intended for is people need to understand that although we need to be working towards alternative energies, we can't cut fossil fuel until our alternative energy systems have become more efficient and beyond that 20-25% efficiency rate. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a good day and God bless.